Hey, I'm Jeff and welcome back to another video. I have a couple of moss pole projects that I have to get done today. One being adding an extension piece to my philodendron verrucosum, plus adding moss poles to my two newly acquired plants. This is the philodendron maximum and this is the philodendron golden dragon. So I gotta add moss poles to these. I thought I would take the opportunity to first show some updates with the moss poles here as per a viewer request, and that viewer is Missy. So thank you for that request. I will be making a full update video to those who answered my call for help on the community tab for YouTube, asking you guys what you want to see for updates. So this is maybe one video of possibly many update videos coming down the road. So let's get started. If you're new to my channel, I do have a YouTube little workshop downstairs here. Here's a plant table and then all my tropical plants down here. When I first started out with putting plants on support systems, I primarily used planks. I really like the simplicity of it, and for the most part, I did not touch moss. I don't like how it gets entangled in the roots, but I have since kind of changed my mind about moss since using the plastic moss poles. So I do have a few plants on moss poles, and well, I think I'll start off with the verrucosum here first. So just in time for the update, this new leaf is just finishing unfurling. Here's one of the older ones, and I'm not too sure why mine get kind of yellow edges every time there's a new leaf. Same with this one. The two lower leaves are looking a little crusty, but this one is absolutely beautiful. It's flawless. It's still sizing up. I'm just going to show the petiole here as well. It's starting to get kind of like little bumps, almost like little hairs on it. And same with this cataphyll right here. It's got some little free sections. And you can see it's basically reached the top of the moss pole. I'm just going to show this other leaf over here as well. So beautiful. It's starting to kind of yellow on the edges, and I'm not too sure why. Look at the little fuzziness up top there, right here. I love it. Yeah, this one a little bit tricky for me. I've been trying to keep the moss consistently moist, I guess, or wet. It is just starting to dry out. I probably watered this maybe, I would say 3 days ago. I soaked the moss starting from the top with my garden sprayer, and I let it kind of trickle down, soaking and saturating the moss, and I let it drip down into the soil here. Now just showing on the back side, you can see lots of nice roots, some right there. It's actually coming up to the top, and these ones coming all the way down. So the goal is, oh, here's lots of roots back here as well. So the goal is to add an extension piece to the top here, and then that way the stem can continue to grow up the plank, and once it reaches this portion right here, I'm going to chop off the top and then take that top portion and place it lower in the pot, and again just continue that process of getting larger leaves. You can see it sizes up as it grows up a support system, so I just can't get over this leaf. So this one's doing really well with the exception of these lower leaves. I don't know if this is a common thing for these verrucosums or not. If you know why this is getting yellow and crispy, it's most likely to an inconsistent watering issue, I think anyways, just because I'm typically a chronic underwaterer. So I've been trying to keep a little bit of a closer eye on these moss poles, just not letting them dry out so that they're super, super crispy. I forgot to show the back. Like, look at these leaves on the back. Just crazy. Love it. This one is really vibrant. These ones not so much. Just trying to see if there's any pests. I've been checking to see if there's any pests with my flashlight, but I haven't seen any. It's getting a little end of the fuzzy petiole up here, right there. This is the philodendron Tahiti, and this is probably my favorite plant at the moment. This one is absolutely beautiful. So a couple weeks ago, I did have this growing up the support system, and I cut it in half and I transplanted it into lower in the pot, and you can see it's already getting some new roots. So it did not have any roots in the soil. All of the roots were in the moss. I basically just stuck them back in the pole here, added moss around it, and it's doing wonderful. So I had really no concerns about this one transitioning from the previous pot to this one. I upsized the pot a little bit. It's still in soil, but you can see all the new roots. As this plant grows up the support system, it gets larger leaves and it gets more of these, I don't even know what you call them. They're not slits, they're not fenestrations. extensions. I don't know. It goes from a leaf like this, and it keeps, I don't even know what you call little fingers. I don't even know what you call it, to be honest. I'll have to maybe do a little bit more research on specific terminology on how a plant leaf morphs into a different type of form. So yeah, this one's beautiful. I love it. I almost forgot to show, I did take the stem cuttings and I have propagated them. There's 5 cuttings in this pot. These are all individual nodes, so they will start their own new stem. And then I planted 2 leafless nodes, but they did have roots. They are in this soil. I don't see anything poking through quite yet, but they are doing okay so far. So I should have multiple tahiti plants here, I would say, in the next few months. And I don't know what I'm going to do with them because I don't need them, so maybe I will sell them. I'm trying not to have more than 1 of each plant kind of thing, and if I do have multiples, I may add them back into the pot. So I just have way too many plants to have like duplicates. So either they get stuffed in the same pot or they're getting sold. This next one is a Philodendron Splendid. It is getting slightly larger leaves. You can see as it grows up the moss pole here, the leaves are starting to size up, so that is nice to see. And it looks like I'm getting a new one up top here. The moss is pretty dry, so I'm going to use my garden spray bottle. I do have filter tap water as well as some fertilizer in here. I've been adding fertilizer and this Root Farm pH down solution to my garden sprayer here for every watering. When you have many houseplants like I do, it's difficult to know exactly when you fertilized each plant. So I've been adding in a very small diluted amount of fertilizer with every watering as long as the plants are growing, and that way I know it's receiving nutrients and not getting too much or not enough. So far everything has been doing really well. So now I'm going to just use the end of my little spray nozzle and I put it way up top here, and then I guess it's a little too, I need it a little bit higher. I'm just going to place it in one of these little holes here, and I just do a slow little trickle until it starts trickling down the moss pole, maybe even a slightly slower amount. And I just want the moss to be saturated. So I usually do it on the floor or like in the bathroom shower or something like that. And I just slowly soak the moss here just so it absorbs it. And then I just let that trickle down into the soil here. This, I guess I should show you. This is an extension piece. I had this on one of those round DIY moss poles, like the wire, chicken wire ones. They don't work for me just because I found in my environment here, they dry out way too fast. So I kind of switched over to these plastic moss poles. They are covered completely on the back. They are only open to air, obviously at the top and on the front, and they dry out much, much slower than those DIY ones. So I know there's ways to modify those DIY round moss poles. You can add plastic and stuff on the back, but it's way too much work. So I did buy some of these THICCLY grow poles off of Amazon, and yes, I did buy them with my own money, and I absolutely love them. I wasn't going to show this one because it's not in moss, it's actually in a aeroid mixture, but this is another Philodendron Splendid. It's getting a little bit of yellowing there, but again, I think that's due to a watering issue. This is really dry right now, so I'm going to give this one some water, but I don't see any real roots kind of popping through this one either. So a little bit of an experiment one. Now I'm going to give this one some water as well. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to make sure, I kind of put my like little wand at the back, and then I just let it trickle down the back. That way all the medium can be absorbing the moisture or the water, I guess. It's already coming out the bottom. So I'm just going to soak this a little bit more. I like to go at the nodes as well and just kind of follow the stem all the way down, making sure that everything is saturated. And I also like to spray off the leaves occasionally as well. Because this does have fertilizer in the spray, you can also do a foliar fertilizer. So not only is the growing medium obtaining nutrients for the roots, but you can do it on the leaves here as well, and it actually absorbs fertilizer through the leaves. This is my Rhaphidophora decursiva. It's an absolutely beautiful plant. I did have it previously on a plank. It started to push out one long runner, so I chopped that up and I did put those in my prop boxes. I'll show you something cool right here. So this is where I made the prune. You can see the stem is cut right there, and it did activate some nodes. So you can see there's a growth point right there, there's one right here, and there is a larger growth point right here, and I did notice this one right here, it's actually growing into the moss. So this will produce a new leaf, like a new stem, but I'm not too sure if I should just leave it and, I don't know. I think I'm going to cut this right here and see if I can get that growth point to grow outside of the moss pole here. All I want is the roots to grow into the moss, not the actual growth point. So, and then I have just a single node right down in the soil here. It looks like it's starting to rot. Actually, I'm just going to take this out, see if there's, this one was in moss. It's got a root. Looks like maybe a growth point right there. I'm just going to leave that right there. It's probably going to rot, but whatever. So I think for this little growth point, I'm just going to snip off this plastic, just like that. I might do this one up top here as well. And just take out this little honeycomb part, just so I don't damage that growth point, like that. And now it should be able to grow outside of the honeycomb plastic material. I still haven't fixed my seat. I say that every video, but I lost the screws out of it. Yeah, I don't even know where they went. They all fell out. Okay, I'm going to start off with this plant, which I didn't mention at the start of the video because I completely forgot I needed to add a moss pole onto this. This is the Philodendron domesticum. It's a variegated plant. It's absolutely gorgeous. Like, look at these leaves. I want to get this one on a moss pole, so I'm going to use a very small moss pole, and it has these little tabs on the back, and I can just basically create a little divot in the soil. Now I got to get a spoon or something to kind of scoop out. Actually, I have my pencil here. So I'm just going to add in some moss. I did use this on another plant. This was actually on my Tahiti. So the way I like to do it, and I know everyone is different. Some people like to dismantle this, add the moss in, and then kind of sandwich it together. I like to just stuff it from the top down. So all of this moss is kind of pre-moistened, and then I just stick it in the top. You can cover the bottom if you want, and then I take a little bamboo skewer and just kind of poke down all the moss until all the little air gaps are filled in. And it's as easy as that. Push that all the way to the bottom. Actually, it's a little too tight. There you go. Now I'm just going to fold these little tabs on the bottom just so it stays in. So I'm folding them like this for now, these little feet, just so the moss doesn't fall out the bottom. And then all you have to do is just place it in the pot. Now I don't want to disturb the roots as much as I can, so I'm just going to dig out a little bit of the soil from the back. Again, hopefully there's not a ton of roots back here. Just so I can add in the little feet on the moss pole. Might just be easier just to dig that down like that. I think that should be sufficient enough. And I'm just going to place this kind of all the way down, or as much as I can. This one's pretty wobbly. Let's see if I can put it right down to the bottom. There, something like that should be okay, so that it looks like that. And now I'm just going to re-add the soil. I might have to add some more. And then I'm just going to pack this down. I might add a couple of these little bark pieces at the back and just kind of squish those down. I'm going to add a little bit more soil just along the edges here. It's going to hold the top of the pole and then just kind of pack down. This is dry stuff right now, so I did water this one a couple days ago. So I'm just going to let that kind of soak in and absorb. I'm not going to add any more water. I don't want to create any root rot or any issues with the roots. Now I'm just going to add a little support tie just so those aerial roots come in contact with the moss, and then just turn it around, and I like to give it just a couple twists like that. It doesn't have to be anything like super tight, just so that the roots come in contact with the moss. Okay, so I think that looks pretty good. And I'm going to place this right here without destroying this anthurium inflorescence. Everything is just getting jam-packed in there. So, okay, here is the new pack of THICCLY grow poles. I think there's 5 in here, and it does come with instructions. It has soil anchors. You can clip them into moss poles, and they come in plastic sheets like this, and there's 5 here. So these ones are the clear version. They have creased edges right here where you just fold them into shape. So you fold along the crease line here on both sides. And like I said, I typically like to add the moss from the top down, but for this one I'm going to try the popular method out there. I'm going to put the moss in like a burrito. Okay, so it's shaped like this. I'm going to set this here like on my little tray. I'll get these out of the way, and then I'm going to make a burrito. Guess I should mention there is a top and a bottom. So the bottom has these kind of longer tabs. I don't know if you can see them or not. These can go outwards, so these act as anchors if you put them in the pot so that you can't pull out the moss pole. But if you place them inwards, then they act as a stopper for your growing medium. So if you put it in from the top down and it's obviously folded up, you push these tabs inside, there's one on each side, and it holds in all the growing medium so it doesn't fall out the bottom. So it's kind of like a dual purpose, I guess, depending on what you want. Then at the top here they have these little smaller tabs, which when you add an extension piece on top, and then you snap those in place. Now, just because I've never done the burrito method, I'm just going to take a handful of moss and just spread it around. Moss is messy, that's what I don't like about it. I don't know how much to add. I guess I just have to just place it in and just keep trying to, so I got moss falling on the floor. I already don't like this. So I'm going to close up this portion right here, starting with the bottom tabs. I can always add more if I need, but so it has these tabs. You just click them together. These tabs can be a little bit tricky. So like that. Get in there. We got moss falling out. So there's the 2 methods of preparing a moss pole. And then this top one here. It was definitely quicker installing it this way. Yeah, well, whatever. It worked. Just gonna use my little, pack that down a little bit. So definitely quicker, and I think it worked out okay. So maybe you guys are onto something. So I'm going to be placing the top one over top of the bottom moss pole. So I'm just slightly bending in, like so, and I'm just placing it or pushing it down. There, now click those little tabs in. I don't know if that did anything or not, but there, that was super easy, fairly simple. I might have to add a, you can't see me, but I might have to add a little support stake at the back because this one's pretty wobbly. I don't want it to fall over. It's not the most stable in this pot, but I'll have to see if I can find a little bit of a larger bamboo stake, and then I can just place that in the bottom of the pot or in the back of the pot, and then that way it just provides a little more stability. I just checked underneath my plant table, and I completely forgot I bought these bamboo stakes, plant stakes. So this is perfect. So that's going to fit. Now, do I put it inside the plastic or do I just place it on the outside? I might just place it on the outside. So I'm going to take this plant tie off. It's definitely grown into the moss, so I shouldn't need any support ties anymore. So I'm going to take this off. Actually, I'm just going to loosen it, because that's what I will add the bamboo stake to. And I'm just going to squish this to the bottom of the pot, like that. And now I'm going to just tie these in. Okay, I put that way off center because I wasn't looking at what I was doing. Okay, I added this support stake or the bamboo on the back, and you can see it's way more stable than it was. So I just tied it in to the soil like that. So finished product. Now I have a couple more to do. I'm going to be assembling this Philodendron Maximum a little bit different just because it has these very long aerial roots already. So I'm not going to add the moss into the pole, but what I'm going to do is remove the plant from the original pot. I'm going to pot it in just something slightly larger, and then I'm going to slide in these aerial roots through the holes, and then I'm going to add moss from the top down. That way I don't have to, jam these roots in if there's already moss like in the pole. Let's take this out. Just going to lightly squeeze the pot. Very nice roots on the bottom. So I'm just going to untangle these a little bit, just like that. And now I'm going to just kind of size it up on the pole. So I want the pole to be seated on the very bottom. And then I'm going to place the cutting in the pot as well. Maybe I might have to go to something a little bit larger. I might go with this one. There, that should be good. So I'm going to put the pole right at the bottom. I'm going to place the cutting pretty much at the bottom as well. Now I'm just going to place these aerial roots. So I'm going to line up the bottom of the plant with the pole. And then as I place the cutting up top here, you can see this aerial root comes into this square area right there. And then these ones I'm going to place just a little bit higher, like that. Just so they are in their holes like that at the appropriate level. And you can see they already come down inside the pole like that. And now I can add the moss into the pole. And just for the time being, until I get the moss in there, I'm just going to add this plant tie so the cutting doesn't fall off there. Now I got a hands-free method of just adding the moss into the moss pole. I'm going to try and not get soil in the pot here, but sometimes that's inevitable. And I'm just going to drop it down. I'm actually going to push in those little tabs at the bottom so the growing medium doesn't fall out. And I'm just going to loosely or lightly drop in. You can see all the moss is staying in there just because of those tabs, which is pretty ingenious, I think. And whoops, I'm making a mess. And then just drop it in. And I have that bamboo skewer. Again, just being mindful of those aerial roots. I'm just going to poke that all down. Okay, I'm going to show this right here. There's a couple roots. It's at the front of the moss. I'm going to see if I can get moss kind of wrapped around the roots, just so it's not exposed to the front, if that makes sense. Just going to see if I can knock some moss down just in front of it, and that way, there. Actually, I might just put a little bit in the front. So I'm going to see if I can stuff some through these front holes, like that. Because I don't want these aerial roots to dry out. I want them to be encased in this moss, get all nice and cozy in there. So all I'm doing is just stuffing the moss through the front, just so it fills in those gaps, and just so the aerial roots are completely covered. Okay, there. It may have taken a little bit longer, but I like the end result here of how those roots are in the moss. So I don't have to train them to grow into the moss. I just stuck them in the moss, and yeah, hopefully Hopefully it does the trick. Okay, now all I have to do is, actually I'm going to place a little bit of this mix in the bottom. So it's a nice chunky mix, just something like that. I'm going to place the pole in there. Whoops, get those roots in. Make sure I don't snap the roots, because that would not be good. Something like that. And then I'm going to get a little cup, and then I'll put some soil in. Just going to hold the pole upright like that, dump this in. This stuff's pretty chunky, so I may have to use just some regular tropical soil at the back. Place a little bit of this right down there. It seems to be going okay. I like to use the pencil just to poke down through any air gaps in the soil. So you can see there's a gap back here that I usually have to add some tropical mix just so it doesn't flop over, but it seems to be doing okay. Here's a root that's poking through, so I want to get that down. I don't know if it will or not. Okay, here's the finished product. This thing is spectacular. I cannot wait till I get those larger leaves. Everything is nice and supported. You can see it's not wobbly. That's me wobbling the pot, but you can see it's not going to fall out or anything like that. So everything's secure. The roots are in there, and I can't wait to provide some updates down the road. It's probably going to need a second pole here shortly, I would say in the next few months, but that's okay. That's a good thing. Hopefully it grows and I get those larger leaves. Okay, we're slowly getting to the end here, folks. So this is the Golden Dragon. I bought this off a good friend of mine for $20. I guess she didn't want any more. There is apparently 2 plants in this. I don't know if they are connected. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this out of the pot, just kind of look at the roots, look at the 2 plants, and I, off camera, whoops, drop some moss. I did make a moss pole already here, just so you don't have to, again, watch me do a moss pole making, but let's just take it out of the pot. I'm probably going to keep these plants together even if they are separate. So they are separate. So I'll keep them together, but I'm just going to loosen up this soil here, and I'm going to be putting it in that VeryPlants aeroid mixture. If you are interested in the VeryPlants soil mixture, I do have a discount code down in the description. And just so you guys know, I do get a small little commission off of the products that I recommend and use. I don't list anything that I personally wouldn't use and recommend. So I have Soltec, Mother Grow Lights, and I have the VeryPlants soil, and I have a couple other companies on there as well. So yeah, I use this stuff, and I would not recommend anything to you that I wouldn't use or don't like just simply for the money. It's not about the money for me, for sure. I want you guys to have the best looking plants out there. So that's why I make these videos. And again, I keep saying I had no idea that my channel was going to get to this point in regards to views and subscribers. It is completely from you guys and your kindness and your support. I can't thank you enough for supporting my channel. So I'm just looking at the plant as I'm rambling, and I'm just trying to find the back side of the plant. So right here, all the leaves are facing this way. So the aerial roots at the back here, I'm going to place on the moss pole. So that's the top. So I'm going to place it something like this, like that. And then I'm going to place the small cutting on here as well, just maybe right beside it. See if I can get these leaves. So something like, I get this one tucked in. Now, which is the back? Okay, so the leaves, looks like maybe there's 2 growth points. So I'm just going to tuck this in, maybe behind this leaf. And I don't want to place it backwards. I think it's backwards. This one's a little tricky. I'm going to kind of explain it as best as I can. Now, the leaves on philodendrons, they'll grow one from the right. I don't know what this is. This is my left, your right, I guess. So there's a leaf here on the left, and then the next one is on the right, and the next one will be on the left. So I try and find the way the leaves are facing, and then I find the, I guess, the alternating leaves. So there's more aerial roots on the back. So this will be the front, and this will be the back. So I'm going to align these up so that, again, these aerial roots come in contact with the moss. So all the roots are going to be at the bottom, like this, and I have the roots just slightly higher up than the bottom of the pot. Now I don't think I'm going to pot it back in this one. I'm going to put it in something just a little bit larger, and I'm going to use terracotta. So stand by, I got to go to my little store. I have a whole bunch of pots underneath my table here. Okay, I have an older pot which I took outside and I sprayed off. Yeah, had some dirt, and just like to rinse them thoroughly so that if there's any salt buildup from the previous plant, there's usually some mineral deposits on the outside. I should really properly clean them with like a vinegar solution or even like an alcohol solution, just so yeah, it gets rid of all those mineral buildup. But I just rinsed it quickly outside, and now I'm going to place the cutting. So you can see I just added a little support stake just so it can remain on the pole while I'm planting it. And so something like that. And now again, I'm just going to be using the Molly's aeroid mixture. Just like that. I'm just holding the pole at the top here, and then I'm just going to add in the chunky mixture like so. I don't think I'm going to give it any water right now, just because I did water it yesterday. The roots were still fairly damp, so I'm just going to leave it for now. Let them adjust to their new soil. I love this already. What a huge transformation from the original pot to this one. I'm just going to spin this around, and I'm going to add some soil in the back. Same thing, as she's a little lopsided. Just going to hold it like that, and then just place some of this material down there. There, it remains upright. After a little while, I can probably actually remove this support tie right now, but I think I'm going to leave it for a little bit. I can remove that in maybe like a month or so. I'll just kind of let it adjust. When I do give it water, then that'll help settle the soil as well. But like I said, I'm not going to water it today. I'm just going to let it adjust to its new soil and pot. Okay, there. What a beautiful plant. Okay, here's the finished product. I absolutely love how it turned out on this moss pole. Now I have no idea where I'm going to place it. I'm going to try and find an area on the floor here. But otherwise, I think that's going to be pretty much it for this video. If you have any comments or questions, please leave it down below in the comment section. Again, I cannot thank you enough for all the support for my videos, channel, merchandise, all the kind comments for me. Yeah, I really appreciate it. This is not possible without you guys, so thank you so much. So I think that's gonna be it. Thanks for watching. Bye.